Today I'd like to tell you about a curve I've never really seen anywhere and which tells you how social media work, no less. It's important because it will help you make sure that your work, a publication for instance, will reach its natural audience optimally. So the curve is quite simple. Here you have time. Here you have people. And if you publish something on social media, your reach will look something like this. Quite predictably and with few exceptions. Now, as a rule, your publication will peak on social media the first day. Right? This would be day one. And then we'll lose speed every day. You have your number of readers, right? So what you have is a kind of boost, a lift off here in the early stages. And here we're talking about the first few minutes and the first 2-3 hours, followed by a climb all the way to your peak. And then comes a long glide, which can last for days, but also for weeks, and in some cases for months, right? So I'd like you to understand two different things in relation to this curve. One is that you're moving through 3 to 4 very different audiences, and it's essential to understand their nature if you want to maximize your ability to reach all 3 and all 4. The second thing I want you to understand here is how much social media rewards momentum and how to create that momentum. And I'll give you a hint. It doesn't happen after you post, but before, and sometimes long before. Your 3 audiences are here. Here you have instant sympathizers. So people who will kind of click, like or retweet, and share and promote and comment simply because they know you, they know your work, and they want to support you as a person, as an organization. Your second audience is the one you will reach over the first couple of days, right? This is your core audience. These are people who are actually interested in the topic. Typically, they know you, but are more distant from you, and connect with the content itself. So they will not just engage with the social media posts, but go and read what you're publishing. Sometimes promote it having read it with a comment of their own, which gives their validation far more weight. Your third audience is what I would call committed latecomers. They belong to this long glide. They will save your work, they will flag it, they will find some way of coming back to it, and they take much more time. So you're moving through these 3 audiences. So what you want to understand here is that the combination of early sympathizers and your core audience represent only a half of the total number of people who will engage with what you've published. The other half is composed of these committed latecomers. They're a very different audience. So at first you'll have people who are on mobile, who don't take much time, who engage only with what you posted on social media, ignore the rest of the website if it's published on a website. The latecomers typically visit the same link, but from a computer, desktop or laptop. They will click around and explore. They will take more time to read all the way to the end. So in a sense, they form, although they come late and are much less visible on social media, a far more valuable audience because of how much they commit to your work. I mentioned the fourth audience, and this doesn't happen all the time. I think it's what you all want to aim for. If your publication does well, if you get the right amount of boost during the liftoff and the climb, you will peak during the second day or the third day. This is what you could call a buzz. And here you're reaching people of a very different nature. So in green here, I'm showing this fourth audience, which is very different from what I've described so far. We could call the early sympathizers your first circle, people who support you unconditionally. And then your core audience and all these latecomers would form a second circle, typically people who know you, your organization, your work, or know the topic you're writing about quite well. The fourth audience would correspond to a third circle of people who've never heard about you, who probably don't know much about the topic, might not be aware of the organization you work for, and simply connect with what you're publishing because of the amount of momentum you created in the early stages. So here you're growing your reach to people you're interacting with for the first time, and they might become people who add to your following or to your base of support in the future. So I think any publication aims to grow your reputation, to grow that base, and this is how you do it. The first, the second, the third, the fourth audience are all very different. They play extremely different but complementary roles. The fourth audience, for instance, is more rowdy, but that's what gives you access to the public space. So in a sense, as you move from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, you're also going through very different qualities of audiences, and success means combining all four. Now, to reach all four, you need a strong starting point, a real boost. Now, how does that happen? During the first stage, but also during your climb. Now, what you don't want to do is scramble, which is what most of us do. We post and there's not much of a response, so we start frantically direct messaging people and reposting and retweeting our own content. That never really works on social media. It's not rewarded by the algorithms or by your audience itself. It kind of comes across quite clearly as scrambling. The trick here is to make sure that you prepare and put all the effort into the days, the weeks, and the months that precede your posting on social media. So we'll take a quick look at what happens in the days before publication, but also in the weeks and the months. So let's say days here, weeks, and months. In the days before you publish, you want to make sure that you write good copy and that you design your product to work optimally on social media. Usually all the effort goes into producing an article, say, and then we underinvest in shaping it to fit the very different formats that you would find on social media. And I think you want to make sure that you tailor that design to Twitter, to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok, whatever you're using. And ideally, I think you want to use a combination of such channels and then think through how to transform your material to make it fit into those very different vehicles. Now, in addition to good copy, what you must do is make sure you provide previews to the right people. So there's really no point in sending a direct message to someone after you've published, kind of begging for their attention. I think you want to show respect for their time and for their own professionalism by sending them your work in advance, which is also making a gesture of recognition of their value and providing them with a kind of service that would be denied to other people. Indeed, the big problem with social media is that we need people to interact with the content, to retweet, to like, even before they have time to read it, because the algorithms are such that you need that momentum, that action in the first few hours after posting, right? So long before people have actually had time to absorb your content and pass judgment on it. So in this phase, what happens is that you're giving people a chance to interact with your content substantively, which puts them in a place where they're most likely to support you the day you actually come out in full view of the public. In the weeks before you publish, you want to be making sure that you collaborate with other organizations. Well, this is a really terrible drawing, but that's the best I can do in the circumstances. So if your work is amazing, if it's novel, if it's important to people, there's really no reason why it should be done in isolation of your peers of the sector you work in. So any form of collaboration where you share not just your findings, your outcomes, but also your instincts, and turn all that into a joint effort will lead to much better involvement from the right people the moment you need them to show support in public. And during the weeks also that precede publication, you want to make sure that you get the framing of your work right. So here you're putting yourself, long before you actually reach out to the public, in the shoes of the people you want to reach ultimately. And so you have to do a kind of audience analysis, think through, well, who am I producing this work for? What's important to them? Where will they connect? What will click? And make sure that you reorganize your work to factor those elements in. In the months that precede publication, what you want to be doing is just one thing, which is building your community. If you are going to come out in public on a particular topic, there are plenty of people out there who may not be peers, but whom you want to involve, you want to reach them through your field work, you want to sit with them in meetings, join events, promote their own work, and make sure you position yourself as somebody in your field who's not just competent, but helpful to the broader community, which you will depend upon the day you want to publish. So if you've done all that, the moment you go live, you have the best chance of reaching all the right people in the right part of the curve. Thank you very much.